Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us today the founder and CEO of Quorit Wound Care, Subir Batra. Quorit Wound Care claims to be the first Indian company to offer complete wound management solutions for all types of wounds, which include chronic wounds, surgical wounds, trauma wounds, other acute wounds, and first and second degree burns. Quorit Wound Care says they don't just make products and sell them, they design solutions for faster healing of wounds. Subir, you're the founder and CEO of the company. Could you introduce us a little bit more to Curate Wound Care, how the company started, where it is right now, and what is the future looking like?
Thanks, Prashant. We actually started this whole concept of curative wound care started just around the time when COVID hit India. So what had happened was, most of the people stayed at home, had nothing to do, and when I was, we used to visit each other, and I started noticing something which I had not noticed before that, which is that a lot of people, especially, the aged, people above 60, 65, people who had some comorbidities, so diabetes, hypertension, stress, etc., they had these small wounds on their on the body, especially around the foot. And I started noticing these, and I started noticing that this was something that seemed to me a very, very big number, much bigger than what I had thought would be the case earlier. And these were people, when I spoke to them, they had these wounds for years. I mean, it had actually become a part of their normal existence. So some people had been consistently having these kind of things for 2 years, 3 years. Not much was getting done about them. So they had visited doctors, was not healing. So at some point of time, they started thinking about this as, as something that they've got to live with for years at end, maybe till the end of their lives. That started me thinking, and I started doing some research. And I realized that it was not just small wounds. Some wounds, a lot of wounds were actually big, deep, actually crevices in the body. It was cavities that had been created that that again were not being healed. And as a result of that, these people who are suffering from these kind of issues were not able to even perform their normal day-to-day activities. I mean, a lot of them had to stay in bed, and especially as they grew older, they just couldn't move, which resulted in huge, costs, not just economic costs, because they could not do the work, they could not earn, so the livelihood was gone, but also a lot of social costs. Could not talk to people. People started thinking of them as someone who would be bedridden. Family had a lot of emotional issues that were going on. So I said, maybe there's something that needs to be done about this. And that is where the whole thought of Curate Wound Care started. So we started looking around in India and seeing what kind of solutions actually existed. And we realized there was not much. There were a few products. Some of the multinational companies had brought some of the products, but these were extremely expensive, and they were still not the best products that were required. The best products were still, concentrated in the Western markets. So the more affluent markets is where they were selling their major products, not brought to India. And I realized this was still a very, very new emerging field. So, the whole concept had started about 20 years ago. And it started picking up in the West, especially in the US and Europe, about 10, 15 years ago. So 2010, 2008 is when this whole concept started picking ground there. And as you know, India is typically 10 to 15 years behind in these kind of technologies. So we saw that lacuna in the market, and we said something needs to be done about it. And next phase was of obviously getting to research, trying to understand, what technologies existed, traveling around the world to see, what we could pick up from there, what we can learn from our experience, from their experiences, and see how we could bring it to India in the best technologies in a relatively cost-effective manner. Because, here the cost plays a major factor, and a lot of people end up not getting treatment just because of the cost angle. So that's how it started. We took about, and these are technologies that need to be built up. So our research, our post the market understanding took about a year and a half. So it took a long time for us to develop our first product, which was an easy to use gel formulation. We call it Cura Gel. So it took us a year and a half, and we actually actively started marketing these products last year. I mean, we had our first salesperson hired in April of last year. So that's how this thing started, and I believe we've done a decent job since then, and we have managed to cure a relatively large number of people. We're still concentrated on one side of the country, so we're concentrated on the west side of the country because we believe um, we need to go step by step, and so that's where we are. Quorit has now started being. It started in the West. It is now getting established as a as a strong brand among doctors who we typically market to.
Excellent. And I almost did not know, and I suppose I could speak on behalf of the viewers as well, that I almost did not know that wound care itself is such a science and an art that an entire company can be dedicated to products around it and at such a scale as you're operating. Could you take our viewers through a little bit of a walk down the history lane regarding how wound care has evolved as a science and perhaps as an art?
To answer your first question, wound care by itself is huge. Even if you look at the wound care industry worldwide, it is, and I was also surprised when we did this research, it's a $25 billion industry. Out of that $25 billion, a lot of it is related to the traditional wound management, which is typically what you look at, what we've been looking at in this country, which is, the bandages, the gauze, the small dressings, like you could look at it as maybe paraffin dressing, chlorhexidine dressings, even something like a Bernol or a soframycin or a Silverex. So these constitute, if you include this is a $25 billion industry. Half of it is now worldwide moved to advanced wound care, which is the field that we are in. So the rest of the half is these kind of products. India, unfortunately, is still, of course, way behind. So India's wound care industry is about $2.5 billion, out of which about $500 to $600 million is the advanced wound care, and the rest of it is the traditional part. So worldwide, 50% of the industry has moved to advanced products. We are still at about 20% in India. So there's a long way to go, and the concept of advanced wound care is gaining ground because it's not just the chronic wounds, but slowly we are seeing this happen in this country also with our products. We're moving towards treatment of the surgical incisions, for example. So typically surgical incision, you've had a surgery, the doctor cuts and creates an incision that takes about 20 days to heal. Using our products, it's come down to 7 to 10 days. So we started seeing that transition also. To answer your second question of how the wound care has evolved, of course, wound care started with, we all know of Shushruta. Centuries ago, Shushruta was the pioneer worldwide. I mean, he was the pioneer in surgery and handling of these kind of cases. And a lot of Western concepts have been built around what he taught. So unfortunately, it doesn't come out very well, very, very strongly in research or in the way things are projected these days. Most of the things are supposed to be Western medicine, but it all started from India, and most Indians don't know that. Over time, people started using traditional methods. So they would use coconut oil, for example. They would use certain things like that. They would use silk. They would put silk on the wounds. They would use ghee. They would use milk at some point in time. So there's a lot of these traditional, and jadi booty to hota hi hai, so that has been used from Ramayana also. You had this, Sanjeevani booty to heal Lakshman. So all these, there are a lot of products in the world, a lot of natural products that are used, can be used, are very effective. The question is, how do you get them? How do you now formulate them into a combination that gives the best results and is, more importantly, easy to use? Because earlier, you used to take the plant leaves or whatever it was and grind them, mix them, and then apply. No one wants to do that anymore. They want it in a pack, in a tube that can easily be applied. No one has the time to do all that now. So it started from there, and as science progressed, we somehow got the ability, built the ability to extract what were the best components of the natural products that were being used for the healing process. So for coconut, we started extracting the component of the coconut that was being used, because not everything is for wound healing. um, Similar for the herbal formulation, similar for you know whatever we needed. So antibiotic properties of a certain product or a certain existent natural item, we started extracting it and putting it in a formulation, in a combination that became much more effective than what it was earlier. So this is how it started. And the concept, so that the two three ways of healing a wound. One is a mechanical ways. People use mechanical ways also. So there's a product called negative pressure wound therapy, which uses vacuum to bring the edges of the wound together. So that is mechanical. There is, of course, what we are in today. We haven't moved into those devices which do the mechanical process. Maybe some point in time we will. What we do is, it comes under a class of a category of products called CTPs, cellular and tissue-based therapies. The even this concept actually started gaining ground in around 2008, 2009 in the Western markets. It was very expensive at that point of time, and hence it did not flow down to countries like ours. And over time, this, as research was, these started becoming very, very effective. And what we have managed to do is create a very, very set of very effective products that are also very cost effective for the Indian market, because our research is done in India, our production is done in India, our team is in India, so we are working with Indian costs. So we managed to bring it down quite a bit. But again, cost is not our concern. Our concern, and the concern of a large number of our customers, is effectiveness. And we have shown that we are much more effective today. And I can say this with a lot of confidence, that we are much more effective today than most of the products that are available in the market, not just in this country, but outside this country also.
Excellent. And what are some of the cutting edge products of Quorit Wound Care? And you alluded to one which you are really proud of and which makes the company stand apart in the whole of India and perhaps even globally.
Yeah, so the first product that we developed, which we have filed a patent for, is a product called Quorit Gel, which is a very strong combination of elements that combine like I said, the effects of healing. So it has collagen as a base. It's collagen extracted from animal sources. So this is extracted from animal sources, because the structure of the animal body is very similar to the human body. So we've used that. We will also come up with a vegetarian option for that, a vegan herbal option for that. But this combines the um, efficiency. It works at a cellular level with the body. It interacts with the body and helps speed up the body's healing process. I'm just talking in layman terms. I don't want to get into too much details. At the same time, it has a very strong microbial effect. It has a very strong antioxidation effect, which helps in cell migration, self proliferation. So what it ends up doing typically is, when a wound is created, the blood vessels are cut off, the tissues have died, and if the wound has been like that for a longer period of time, then the cells on top of it are dead. So what this does is it helps ge- generate the blood vessels, helps bring nutrients, the proteins, nutrients to the wound bed. It helps the cells to remain healthy and then generate the tissue. So it actually helps in the whole process of, if you've seen a wound which has a cavity, it actually helps cover the cavity also. If you see a burn which has, a second degree burn which is burnt off the epidermis and the dermis, it will help create the dermis, and it will help do this in a very speedy manner. As against, and this is as against most of the products that are today available in the market, what they do is they just create a environment for the body to work at whatever speed it works. to heal the wound. So when I'm saying an environment, very important for healing or for the cells to grow, a moist environment is important. Not too moist, not too less. Optimal moist environment. Temperature balance has to be maintained. Oxygen balance has to be maintained. So most of the products just do that, but our product actually speeds up the process. We have also after that developed a few more products. One is a product called Quorit D, which is a porous membrane. In addition to doing all that, it absorbs the exudate if there's a lot of exudate coming up, and it helps in hemostasis. So you combine the benefits of these, and you know at various stages. So the doctor knows when to use which product to speed up the healing process.
And you mentioned an interesting point. You mentioned the term vegan. So, are you seeing that the Indian patients are sensitive to being to having access to a vegan product specifically, even when wounds are being considered?
Not really. I haven't seen that. I really haven't seen that. I mean, patients are more concerned about their life and the healing, and how fast can they become well and up again. That is what they've been always concerned about. I have not seen anyone really talk about vegan options. No. But again, this is something that I think more than what the patients want, it is more what companies want to talk about, right? Not us, so that's what we have not done that yet. But at some point in time, we'll see if this is something that helps us with maybe a small number of patients who might be a little concerned. For example, we've had people come and ask us, not in this country, but some people have asked us what goes into it. So is it pork? So Muslims are concerned about pork. Hindus are concerned about cows. Have you extracted from these these animals? So you had some questions come up about that, but not from India actually. We've got this from places like Malaysia, from Africa. We've got some of these questions, but nothing serious. These are people are not worried about that. People are very, very clear. It's all about where the interest lies. They want themselves to be cured first.
And how much time and money does it cost to bring out a new product? I believe in any product related to medical care, there are many trials like phase 1, 2, 3, etc. Is Quorit wound care also subject to all of those?
Yes, definitely, but it depends on which kind of product you're coming up with. If it is a product which is already existing in the market, for example, or if it is a product that a variant of that is available in the market and you come up with an improvement on that, then you really do not need too much. Again, depends on how the CDSCO, which is the drug regulator here, views it. If they give permission based on something that you can provide in terms of research, or if you can provide in terms of an existing product, they call that a predicate. If that exists, you don't have a problem. If not, of course, you have to go through clinical trials. So you have to go through the whole process. Is you do a in vitro trial, you do a preclinical trial, you do a clinical trial before. Yeah, so your preclinical would typically mean animal trials. So you go through the whole process, and you then present those findings to the regulator and then get an approval. So that process takes a long number of time. For some products, we're doing that. For some products, we're not. So for example, for us to do Curogel, it took us 1.5 years because a lot of this needed to be done. But some of the products, of course, like I said, we are a complete wound management company, which means that we need to have the advanced products and we need to have the basic products also. Well, if you look at it from a dressing point of view, you use the advanced products which are on contact with the wound bed, and then you need the basic products to provide the support, to provide secondary dressings. You need all that. So hence, a lot of products, yes, need that. Some products don't.
Okay. So does Quorit Wound Care document the findings of the research and the trials for technical folks like doctors and researchers to go through and get convinced on the efficacy of the products that Quorit Wound Care develops?
Yes, definitely. That's a very important part of the whole process. So we definitely, the more journal articles you have, the more research articles you have, the more case studies you have, of course, it helps in the process of convincing a doctor. But finally, you have to realize that a doctor, most doctors, will not use a product unless they see the efficacy for themselves. So they would do their own trials, and not completely rely on what is out there in the research papers. Um, but they after that, but this makes a big difference in terms of our being able to convince the doctor, especially case studies. So we are published today in a few journals. In fact, we are published in the Wounds Asia Journal, which is a big journal for the Asia Pacific region, wounds, just for wounds. So we are published there, and we are published in a few other journals also, and we are going ahead and doing more of these activities. Plus, we are working with some doctors to build case studies, which will be published in with us and with them. So these activities need to be done. I mean, in the medical field, unless you're going with a completely me too generic product, there's no way you can avoid these.
Right. And all the cutting edge products of Quorit must involve multiple disciplines of the highest quality. I'm talking about, of course, the doctors, but then also research scientists, perhaps even mathematicians and physicists. How do you typically recruit people? Can you tell us something about your product development team and processes?
So yeah, definitely. I mean, not so much mathematicians and physicists. I mean, that's probably stretching a little too far at this point in time. And we are not that big a company. These things are really Pfizer's of the world and the 3Ms, and they have the money to spend all that. But what we do is we work closely with, of course, doctors, a panel of doctors that we have who help us, come up with product ideas, and we work with academic institutions. So today we have a MOU signed with a research institution called DHIMER, which is DMIHER, Datta Mega Institute of Higher Education Research, which is associated with Jawaharlal Nehru Medical Institute, Medical College in Maharashtra, near Nagpur. So we work very closely with them. And we're working on joint research with IIT Kanpur, with their biomedical division. I mean, they call it biomaterials division, and also with IIT Kharagpur. So these are the research institutions that we're working with. We are also, in talks to work with some other institutions in Gujarat also, because we are closer to Gujarat, so it helps in the coordination much better. And we are generating joint research projects, which we are presenting to bodies like ICMER or BIRAC, which are the top research and regulatory institutes for medical products in India. So a lot of work is going around that. Uh, we have a small product team. A lot of work we do with the research heads and the research associates that are in these organizations, because they have access to a lot of equipment that we probably will not have, and they are doing research, a continued research for a longer period of time, but in their own department. So a lot of work is there. Some of the work is in-house, and we do a lot of joint work with them.
Recently, there has been a talk about some products that zip clean cut wounds. Now, are they a reality or just some sort of pop science?
No, there's a lot of research being done around a lot of different lines. So there's research being done on nanotechnologies. There is research that is being done on mechanical ways of closing wounds. There is research being done on strong hemostatic products that will immediately close the wound. So you use mechanical product with a hemostatic product that closes the wound immediately. Research is being done, but nothing really significant has come out in a marketable way yet. So and so in different directions. In fact, one of the IIT Kharagpur, and we are kind of associated with that, is working on using nanobots to move into the wound and dispense certain phages out there. So those things are being done. Nothing, like I said, these are early stages of research, and a lot of talk you would hear about these, but still a while away from these being proven, and then after they're proven, then they have to go to the trials, and then they have to get approval. So it's far away. So it's very difficult for us to say whether it is it is bogus or it is actually there.
And one of my doctor friends told me about some research papers in which he himself had contributed, which resulted into some product which claims to heal the wounds faster by passing small amounts of electric currents through it. What is Quorit Wound Care's take on such products, and do you manufacture or plan to manufacture any of these?
So today, like I said, we are not into devices. These are device-led products. So you have um, a unit that connects to the electrical power base, and from there you. So typically, electro stimulation. It's also called 10 TEN. Electro stimulation has been used in the past for managing pain, and it has been seen to be effective in managing pain. Electrostimulation has been used to, get rid of these knots that form sometimes in your body. For example, in the neck, if you have a cramp in the neck, electrostimulation has been seen to work there. Not very common. Okay. I have not seen anyone use electrostimulation directly on a wound for the purpose of healing a wound by itself. People have used it in association with other products as an adjunct, not as the main product, but as an adjunct, because it relaxes the muscles, which helps. It reduces the pain, which helps. It provides some amount of stimulation to activate cells which might have been damaged. So these parts are there, but as a standalone therapy, I have not seen it being used.
And Curate Wound Care, that's you have a prolific portfolio of wound care products. Some people argue that PRP or platelet-rich plasma is one of the best techniques which trumps any of the conventional products. What do you have to say to that?
So firstly, we have a long way to go in terms of products. We have a long list of products that we are bringing to the market. So we're still a little way away from, but we have a good portfolio of products, primarily for a market that is not exposed so much to it. So we have a good portfolio yet, and we're building up more products in the portfolio, which will include things that people have not looked at so far. For example, nutritional products. Wounds need, anyone who's got a wound is probably deficient in something or the other. And, proper nutrition is extremely important. So nutritional products is something that we're focusing on. Debridement products is something that we're looking at. So we're looking at a huge variety of products that we bring to the market in the next few months or years. PRP, you mentioned PRP. Yeah, PRP is something that is being used. Some doctors say that it is extremely effective, and not again a very, very common therapy, because it is something that needs a little more effort than a normal dressing or something of that sort. So PRP, the way it works is you drop blood from the patient's own body, and you put it into a centrifuge, which results in coagulation, which what it does is it concentrates the growth factor. So the liquid is moved out and it becomes, the growth factors are coagulated. It does concentration of that. And there's another, in fact, technology called PRF, which is platelet plasma with fibrin instead of platelets. So concentration is in fibrin there. These take a little bit of time. So imagine patient there, drawing blood, putting into a machine for 15, 20, 30 minutes, preparing it, and then applying it. So that is the process. In terms of process, that's how it works. But let me tell you this. Not every wound can be healed by every solution. I mean, so some wounds heal faster by PRP. Some wounds heal faster by mechanical solutions. Some wounds work faster with collagen-based solutions. Some wounds would work faster with, let's say, oxygen therapy. PRP again is one of the various options that a doctor has, and I think it is a relatively good option for a certain class of wounds. So it's not that it can be used everywhere and it'll have the same results. So like I was saying, some products work better in certain kinds of wounds, some products work in different kind of wounds. And but what is to be noted here is that PRP has not been approved by the FDA. Okay, so the US FDA has still not approved PRP. Some people say it is because it is not really a product that is sold by manufacturers to doctors, because it's something that, you know, the doctor actually extracts from the human body, processes and puts it out there itself. So some people claim that is the reason, but the fact is it has not been approved by the US FDA. I would still say it is a good option. It is a good option. Another option that we're looking at is that we are making a product with growth factors built into the product. Growth factors along with the antibiotics built into the product. Because that's what PRP really does, right? It concentrates growth factors from the body of the person and puts it back into body, which is like an autologous process. Autologous basically means you're using your own body's um, ingredients to use on your own body. Otherwise, you're using something else from outside and putting it in. So I would say it is a good option. Takes a little bit of time. Needs a little bit of expertise to generate it, build it. Like I said, the coagulation, the and building it, and then putting it back. But yeah, good. It's one of the good options, one of the better options. Yeah.
Awesome. And there are also some traditional ways of wound healing described in Ayurveda. And you mentioned Sushruta, who was, I suppose, the father of surgery, and also how our ancestors used to deal with wounds. As for example, a very traditional method is to apply honey on the wounds for faster healing.
Right. Yeah.
Are there any products in your portfolio which leverage or plan to leverage this traditional science for wound healing?
Not yet. So we have not used honey yet. We might in the future. There are some companies that use honey-based dressings. Not very common in India yet. But yes, honey, coconut, a lot of natural products are available that can be used in combination with, but it's always better to use them in combination with some other products because they have their benefits in some of the processes for wound healing. Some of the processes you have to have something else that's built in. So we always believe in bringing the best of all worlds together, either in a single product or in multiple products. So that's how it is. But yes, traditional. But like I said, what we believe in is extracting the best out of all of this, the best ingredients out of it, and build it. Maybe at some point of time we will look at honey. You cannot have. There's so many options. You know, there's so many options. You cannot have all the options together. It's just confusing because a lot of them work towards the same goal, right? And so that's how it works. There are so many of these products. You can't do all of them.
Okay. In Quorit Wound Care's product portfolio, there's something called bioactive intelligent dressing. What is intelligent about it? In other words, how is it different?
So this is what I told you about. In what our products, a lot our major products, what they do is they interact with the body. So you have, I mean, if I just go into some of a little bit of detail here, there are there are a lot of processes happening into the body in normal circumstances, also in when there's a wound. So if you look at the way a wound progresses, so let's say you've got a cut, right, on your hand or on your face. What happens there? First, bleeding has to be stopped. So there is the hemostasis process, right? Most of it is in smaller wounds happens very, very fast. So you don't even notice it. 3-4 days, you're done. Your skin is back to normal. So the first is hemostasis happens. So typically when a cut is there, we give it pressure to stop the bleeding, right? The second stage is what's called the inflammation stage, which is where the body starts responding to try to build back the damage that has been done to the body. That is called the inflammation stage. And most of the wounds are actually stuck in the inflammation stage if they persist for a long time and turn into chronic wounds. A chronic wound, again, you might know this, but a chronic wound is a wound that does not heal by itself in a certain amount of time, which different people talk about 4 to 6 weeks. and beyond. If it doesn't heal in that much time, it's called a chronic wound. Otherwise, it's called an acute wound. So the inflammation stage, the wound stays in the inflammation stage, which is where it turns chronic. So if the inflammation stage, which is the body's response to healing, it becomes effective in 2-3 hours or maybe a couple of days, depending on the kind of wound, the depth and the nature of the wound, then the healing starts by itself. Our products, and then comes the remodeling stage, which is the proliferation stage, where the blood vessels start forming and the tissues start forming and the skin starts forming, everything, the healing happens, and then the remodeling, which is where the strengthening of the skin, etc., happens. So our products, what they do is targeted in the first 3 stages, fourth stage also, but primarily in the first 3 stages. So if there is bleeding, our product is going to stop the bleeding, right? If it gets stuck in the inflammation stage, there are reasons why it gets stuck in the inflammation stage, and there could be multiple reasons. There could be biofilm that's created, that is infection. That could be because macrophages are overproduced, but are not being effective. So in that case, our product either compensates for the changes that are happening. So if there's mainly an increase in the number of macrophages, so it down-regulates the macrophages, which helps in collagen synthesis and which helps in regeneration of the wound. So in fact, a lot of products are actually today based out of collagen, although we're getting into other kinds of products also. And collagen is the most abundant protein in the skin. So which is why it is so important. You for anything to develop, for a wound to develop, collagen has to be produced. You talked of PRP. PRP, what does it do? PRP also helps in collagen synthesis, so that healing starts. Our product already has collagen, okay, and it also helps in additional collagen synthesis. So that is where it becomes intelligent, because it downregulates to the amount it needs to be downregulated. It upregulates to the amount it needs to be upregulated, because this is controlled by the body. We are infusing the materials that need to be done to optimize the reaction of the body towards the healing process, which is where we cut down. I was talking to you about how do we heal the surgical sites where the surgical cut the incision has happened. We heal it by optimizing this so that the inflammation phase shortens. So that's what is intelligent about it. And it is bioactive because it interacts with the body at a cellular level, which is where it also comes on the class of cellular tissue-based products, again, because of cell, and helps in generation of the tissues. And it is intelligent because it does just about the right amount of modification in the body's processes to heal it fast. PRP, for example, we talked of PRP, right? We talked of growth factors. Growth factors and PRPs can actually sometimes overact more than what is needed. So what that does is that leads to sometimes hyperproliferation. You might have seen cases where, especially in burns or some cases where you're healing the wound, granulation starts, but over-granulation happens because the growth factors are acting so fast that the body is lagging behind. You're not being able to generate the dermis, but granulation is faster than that. So that results in bleeding while the wound is healing. So that is another problem which happens in the proliferation stage. Might happen because too much growth factors we use. Sometimes happens when a PRP or a PRF is used, but our products actually regulate. They don't allow it to go faster or slower. So that's how it is. Bioactive because it works with the body. Intelligent because it knows how much. It helps the body to work at the optimal level.
Excellent. And these days, there's a lot of talk about 3D printing of skin, because skin is a precious resource for especially burn victims, for example. So does Quorit have or plans to have devices around 3D printed scaffolds, which will substitute as skin graft islands?
Again, this is a little bit in the future, so I don't have an answer for that yet. As it is, our products help in building that scaffold. So they along with the healing, they also build the scaffold, because scaffold is, if they build the ECM, they build the scaffold. So it is a little early for us. There are products today. There are companies that are trying to do 3D printing for skin. Korea, for example, there's a Korean company which does this. In fact, you would have heard of Alchem, right? Which is a big pharmaceutical company. Alchem actually tried to bring that product to India. And unfortunately, it was a huge failure, and they had to shut down that division. I wouldn't say the technology is bad. The technology is good because you're again extracting cells from your own body, sending them to a central location where the those cells are used, that those proteins and the cells are used to create a 3D printing skin layer, and then you're applying it back to the same body. The results, I suppose, are decent. They're good, um, but this turns out to be a long-term affair. So it takes time, okay? Because you have to do it send to central location, get it back. So as it is a longish process today at least, and it is expensive, extremely expensive. So the treatment by itself goes into lakhs and lakhs of rupees, which does not really offset any major benefits that the thing has. So we have seen our products heal certain wounds in 15 days, 20 days. The longest we've seen is about 35, 40 days. Now this whole process takes about 15 days. And even if a surgeon needs to do a skin graft, they can prepare the wound bed in 15, 20 days and then do a graft, which again is much. And there also you're picking up skin from the patient's body itself. So there's really not too much of a difference as I see it. But I mean, I might be wrong there. This is a technology that is coming in. But I think it will take time to become ready for mass use. Like I said, people are trying it. People are definitely trying it. I'm sure they're getting decent results because from what I hear, the process seems to be very logical. But again, still a few years away till 3D printing becomes relatively mature.
Be that as it may, your product portfolio seems dominant on the skincare side. Do you also have any products, let's say for tendon substitutes or ligaments or bones?
We don't have that yet, but of course, we have plans to do that in the future. The natural progression for us is from wound. You heal a wound, you ensure that the wound, once it's healed, the skin comes back to its natural strength, its original condition, which requires some amount of skincare products. So we have today products for scars. So you have a wound, you get a scar. So we have products that heal the scars. We are coming up with certain products, again, related to skin, but more medicated kind of products related to skin. For example, you have these dark spots, you have stretch marks, you have uh, scar gels, again, like I said, we already have. So we are coming up with certain products in there. The other direction that we're moving towards is pain management, because again, it is related. So we're moving in a related direction. So we are coming up with some pain management products. Like I said, we're coming up with nutritional products for wounds, for scars, for skin. Once we cover that area, then of course the next logical stuff for us to get is into bone care. So regeneration of bones. We could do that immediately, but I believe that we have to move in a very calibrated. We have to move fast, but it still has to be calibrated and it has to be focused. We have a lot to cover. Like I said, wound care already is a 23 billion, $25 billion opportunity for us, and that by itself is huge. Specialization in these fields is also important because the only way we can come up with new, more effective products is by specialization. So, given that, yes, we will look at it. We have considered it, but we've decided today to limit ourselves to seeing how we can get better in wound management and somewhat in skin.
Yeah, I wish you good luck with that. But what is your business model? Is it primarily B2B, where you presumably work with hospitals, or is it also B2C?
Very interesting because we started off as a B2B, right? Our customers are doctors, our customers are hospitals. Of course, some hospitals, sometimes it is the products that are at the hospital and they're used by the doctors. But a lot of times the doctor prescribes this product to the patient. And we have started seeing some amount of interest from the consumers themselves, because these are products that are not just as some of the products, especially something like a gel or a sheet. It can easily be used by the patient themselves. Our products are extremely easy to use. So we have also started seeing that the first session is done by the doctor, because he's got to clean the wound and make sure the wound bed is ready. After that, things are done at home, and the ease of use allows them to do this. Now, it started off by looking at the more complicated wounds, right, where you have to go to a doctor. But a product of ours that can heal a complicated wound can also heal a simple acute wound much, much faster. In fact, we have seen, there's a kid who had a cut on the near the eye, a high amount of bleeding, and within I think 1.5 2 days, they use a gel, and within 1.5 2 days that cut just disappeared. Something that would normally have taken 3 4 days to cure. So given this, and given the interest that we're seeing from the consumer side, um, for smaller cuts, burns, etc., I believe there's a huge opportunity, and we are actually developing a model where we could, move more D2C. So we're seeing what is the best way to go about it: offline, online, a combination of the two, a combination of, you know, doctor consultation with the products being there. And we have a huge range of products that can be used at home. Again, I'll give you another example. Gel is one example. A gel can be easily used for smaller cuts, burns. Of course, it is slightly more expensive than what you would see. So, for example, a Bernol that will cost you about a 10-gram Bernol would cost you about 50 60 rupees. Our product would cost you about 195 200 rupees. The one that we will launch at the consumer level. Of course, it will not be the same product that a doctor uses, because that is highly advanced. The product that will be used at home will be about 195 200 250 rupees, in that range. And our initial market survey has shown that there is a lot of interest in that, because two three things happen. Um, think of uh, a family, right? And with a kid, the kid falls down. What happens? He has a cut. What is the biggest concern of the mother? The biggest concern that we have seen in our research is that, one, it has to heal faster, which is a given, right? Bleeding stops, healing happens. Instead of 5 days, 10 days, the healing happens in 3 days. I mean, they're willing to pay a premium. But the most important part is what happens after that, the scar. Most parents are concerned about the scars that remain after a child has an injury. So our product, what it does is it minimizes the chances of the scar. It reduces it so much that the scar becomes very, very light. And then we have further products to just remove the scar. So what we've seen, and our research again has shown, that this is a very, very big problem. No mother, no father wants the kid to have a scar on the knee or on the hand or elbow. So that has been a very, very strong demand from consumers for us. That can we have a product? And we actually do have a product. So we're building a product which will be slightly lower cost, around the 200 figure mark, and one that takes care of the scar and the wound. So this has a strong pull. That is what we see. And in addition to that, we have the other products, right? So we have advanced versions of bandages, band-aids. We have advanced versions of band-aids, for example, which are much better to look, you know, flaunt. So you could actually flaunt your injury with that kind of band-aid. So waterproof, completely waterproof. You can go swimming in it. You don't have to take it out when extremely wet, swimming, things like that. So we have those kind of products that can easily be marketed to consumers. So that's why we're framing a strategy to do that. And hopefully very soon we will have a online presence with a D2C, and some offline presence also.
Awesome. And who are your primary competitors in India and abroad as well?
So we primarily compete with mainly MNCs. There are hardly any major Indian players that we compete with. So we have Ergo, which in India is probably the biggest wound care company in India today. We have Convatec, we have Coloplast, we have Monlike. I mean, I'm talking abroad also. I'm just not talking India here. We have 3M to some extent, Smith and Nephew to some extent. So these bigger players that are there, BSN, these are there abroad, but very few of them have really concentrated on India. So in India, the way I see it is in India, the ground is very open. It's like a blank slate. So we don't even need to worry about competitors. We are more concerned about getting to customers. A lot of customers have not been exposed to these products. A lot of doctors, especially in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, have not been exposed to these products at all, which reduces. So if they don't have the right tools, they are not being able to do right justice to healing of the patient care. So India, we are not very concerned. Africa, we are not concerned. Africa, you have complete blank slate. The Southeast Asia is somewhat coming up, so we have some of these international companies. But of course, US and Europe is a completely different ballgame where there is competition.
Okay. Now, you yourself are a computer science graduate from BITS Pilani, aren't you? And I can vouch for that you were the batch topper. Uh, and you followed it up with an MBA at IIM Bangalore. Now, how comfortable and qualified you find yourself at a company called Quorit Wound Care, which primarily seems to be at the cutting edge of medical science?
Yeah, so I actually got into healthcare in 2012. That was my first foray into healthcare. And created a company, built a company, I sold that company. So that gave me a lot of exposure to the medical side of things. And you know what? And I think we've discussed this earlier also, that what a good degree in engineering gives you and what a good degree in management gives you basically is the foundation. It gives you the foundation and it prepares you for not just the technical side of things that you've learned, but a lot of others. It gives you the right framework for thinking, right? And that's a lot. So it's been about now what, 20, 13 years in the healthcare industry. So that's been a long enough time for me to learn a lot of the stuff that needs to be learned, to understand the technologies, to understand the products, and to actually contribute a lot to the product team also in that way. So it's been a journey. It's not that you've done computer science, you've done MBA finance, etc., and then you started. And if you look at our batchmates also, how many of the batchmates are still doing the things that they learned in college? Hardly any, right? So that's how it works. Yeah. And you get, when you're in this industry, you get exposure to product specialists, you get exposure to scientists, researchers, practitioners. So all of it comes together.
Right. And do you have any message to folks who either want to work at Quorit Wound Care or perhaps even want to invest in the company?
Yeah, so I'll talk about the industry first. This is an industry that needs a lot of inputs. This is an industry that needs to, it's at the cusp. It is at an inflection point. This is the time that we will see tremendous growth, and we're seeing tremendous growth in and a lot of interest in this industry. In fact, plastic surgeons have come and told me that, look, this is the time plastic surgeons, a lot of them are moving away from the aesthetics, because if you remember in the 2010s, 15s, 20s, a lot of plastic surgeons had moved away from the basic surgeries, plastic surgeries, to aesthetic surgeries, cosmetology surgery. A lot of them are now moving back. A lot of people are building, or at least are thinking of building, wound care centers. You did not see wound care specialized. I don't know how many specialized wound care centers you've seen so far, but they're coming up. And the conditions are just right. Affluence is growing. People have the exposure. Doctors have exposure going abroad and want the technologies here. People have exposure and they know that things can be treated and they want the right kind of treatment. People are not averse to paying for treatments. So the industry to me is going to grow at least 25-30% a year going forward, right? And this is just India. Forget the rest of the world. Now, in terms of Quorit, we are at the cutting edge of technology here, right? We are working with the best researchers in this country. We are a very specialized company. So we are just thinking of a certain product, which allows us to get into depth as against a lot of other companies who are doing 10 different things, right? Because maybe because they don't believe in the opportunity, or maybe because they don't have the capability to do that. Because India, again, research has not been that a forte of Indian companies so far. So we are very specialized. If you are interested in wounds, if you're interested in learning, if you are interested in building for the future, if you are interested in personal growth and specialization, if you're interested in seeing how a company can grow from the beginning and grow along with the company and reach a certain stage, high levels over the next few years, we are a very, very fast growth company. We provide that environment. So yeah, this is a great opportunity for someone who wants to be in the medical space. Whether you want to come in as a product person, as a researcher, as someone who wants to develop new products that are at par or better than what is there worldwide, or you want to come in as a marketing or salesperson. So multiple opportunities from a marketing perspective. Like I said, we're going to build a D2C channel very, very soon. We have an offline sales force. You want to do that. You want to work with the best doctors in the country, because the people that we work with are plastic surgeons, vascular surgeons. These are very, very limited, highly specialized, highly sought after people. It is right. So you want to work with the best doctors. You want to be the best in the industry. This is the place to be. That is what I would say. And for investors, I think for investors, if you have not looked at the wound care market so far, I think this is the time for you to look at it. If you're looking for a company that has the vision, that has the abilities, that has the capability to build products, and that has the capability to that is actually going global, talk to us. That's what he said. So today, already in the last 1 year, I would say we are today in East Africa, we are in Southeast Asia, we are in Central America. Process of we're just getting into Sri Lanka. We have entered Bangladesh, but Bangladesh has become a problem, as you know. We have started the process of registration in the CIA countries, which is EU, EA countries. So a lot of activity is happening, and a lot of activity is happening fast. So we've grown, we've demonstrated, and if you're looking at this, always open to talk.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Subir. Perhaps you could be called as, if not the lady, but as the person with the lamp healing the wounds in India and the world. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have been, thanks for watching. We have been in a very insightful dialogue with the founder and CEO of Quorit Wound Care, Subir Batra.
Thank you, Prashant. Pleasure talking to you.